Hello everybody, mYinsanity here with another Age of Empires 4 interview. Of course, this is part of a larger series of interviews that I'm doing ahead of the release of the game, as well as ahead of Genesis, one of the major tournaments that is kicking off in early November. It is mostly to find out what are the different perspectives from all of the players coming here from StarCraft 2, from Age of Empires 2, Age of Empires Online, everybody. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it.
Okay, yeah, sure. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Project Belgium. I'm a high-level Age of Empires 2 player. I've been playing Age of Empires 2 since 2014, but I've started to get a breakthrough, I would say, around 2019. I did win the Aspiring Experts tournament, which was a tournament on Voobly for players who were not really at the top, but maybe like one step below that. Other than that, I've been having some moderate success in all the top or like all the high-rated tournaments. Usually I place like 16th, just outside of the top. But now that Age of Empires 4 is coming out, I'm really excited to branch into that. And I'm obviously also going to be playing into the new Genesis tournament, which will happen in early November.
Right, and I want to ask you, having that experience, I think a lot of people have the preconception, at least a lot of people that I've talked to that are from other RTS titles, have the preconception that Age of Empires 2 players, particularly those at the higher end of the competitive side, will have a massive advantage when it comes to Age of Empires 4. Now, whether that is an objective position to have, a little bit of another topic, but I want to know your opinion. Do you feel particularly confident coming from Age of Empires 2 into Age of Empires 4? Or do you think it's just the relation between like the most known Age of Empires competitive title is Age of Empires 2, so people just kind of fall into, oh, Age of Empires 2 players will be best? Or do you feel that is a real thing? Is that a confident boost?
Well, initially I also thought that there would be a pretty massive carryover, but I've played the beta and then also the open beta, so I've played Age of Empires a couple of games, and I've got to say there is obviously some carryover from Age of Empires 2, but for the most part, just like if you come from another game, most of the stuff is new. There's still a lot of stuff that needs to get figured out, so I would say we do have a small advantage, but in general I would say the playing field is quite open to everyone. If you're good at let's say StarCraft 2, I think you're also gonna be quite successful at Age of Empires 4.
What are some elements that you think will fit Age of Empires 2 players better going into Age of Empires 4?
I think the strategical aspect of the game, having to like use multiple units, also figuring out how to use the map control to your advantage, which is quite important to Age of Empires 2. Obviously, I've not played that many games with Age of Empires 4, so I don't know how that will carry over, but I do think like the strategical part of the game is what really is prominent in Age of Empires 2. So that's probably where we have the biggest advantage.
Is there anything besides it being a new Age of Empires title and being a new major RTS title that has you perhaps excited is not the best word, but at least very interested in playing Age of Empires 4?
I mean, the game is quite similar to Age of Empires 2, and it has a lot of improvements, so that's what also excited me. And then, well, just the fact that it's a completely new game. I've been playing Age of Empires 2 for quite a while, as I previously mentioned, so just playing a quote-unquote new game is like one of the main factors that excites me for this game.
And have you talked with anybody coming from other titles about Age of Empires 4? Like, I know a couple of people from the Age of Mythology and Age of Empires Online have their sort of little own group that they are talking with, and I also have the StarCraft 2 pros that are talking with each other. Have you reached out to anybody in other competitive scenes to talk about what their perspective is on Age of Empires 4 at all?
No, I haven't, because I don't really have any like contacts or players that I know outside of Age of Empires 2.
So how is your team, mYinsanity, going to look at Age of Empires 4? I know that Daniel and Citao both joined the Genesis server. I know that Daniel said that he wasn't particularly keen on maybe trying out Genesis. I haven't heard from Citao yet, but I want to know if there is a general idea between you guys in that team that, hey, are we gonna try out Age of Empires 4, or do we want to focus primarily on a?
Yeah, that's a good question. We have been talking like 1 or 2 weeks ago about the tournament, and then also what we wanted to do for Age of Empires 4. So the thing is, the tournament is pretty close after the launch, so our plan is just to try and get in as much practice as we can, and then just share strategies. If we see that something works, we will share it in our group, and then we will strategize a bit from there. But yeah, we're I think we're all gonna play it. I'm not sure about Daniel, but probably like I'm going to play. Sito is as well, most likely. We also have Bulletchen, who is in our group. So we'll just try and get in as much practice as we can before the tournament.
So this also leads into another question that I have, which is King of the Desert 4. That is a major tournament that is going to be happening, the qualifiers of which are happening on the 30th and 31st, I believe, which means that you're going to have to prepare for that tournament as well as Genesis. Now, I was thinking that there is likely a bigger incentive to try and get a good run into King of the Desert 4, but I want to know the real perspective, your perspective as a player. Which of these two tournaments are you going to be prioritizing, if you're going to be doing any sort of prioritization, or what's going to be happening there between choosing those two tournaments?
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, sadly, I won't be able to play the qualifiers of King of the Desert, because in that weekend it's the birthday of my brother and I already have plans in the weekend, which means that I won't be able to participate in the qualifiers, which means that I'll have a bit more time to prepare for Genesis. But if I did have time, I obviously would put in a lot more effort for King of the Desert, mainly because it's also a larger prize pool, but I'm also a bit more familiar with I'm way more familiar with the game because I've been playing it for quite a long time.
Do you think that is a common sentiment across the board for most players that have to play the qualifiers? Because the invitees, they have a little bit of lead time to prepare for Genesis before they have to prepare for the main event at King of the Desert 4. But for all of you people who end up in those top 16 situations, but you still need to qualify a lot of the time, do you think if they have the choice to go for King of the Desert, they will put a lot more time into King of the Desert than Genesis?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do think so. Probably for like 95% of the players, that's going to be the case.
So since you talk about Genesis being the priority for you, at least because of your circumstances, I want to know, you talked about a little bit about not playing a ton of the closed and open betas, but playing somewhat. Could you be not necessarily specific, but give us a better idea of the amount of time that you've been playing Age of Empires 4 to get a better grasp on, like, there is a difference between playing for 10 hours and some of the people that I've talked to who told me that they are already ranking into the 80 hours from the closed beta and the open beta.
Okay. Yeah, I do think maybe combined I've played roughly 15 games with both of the open and the closed beta. So I did play all of the civs that were available to play, like 2 or 3 times. Maybe I think the English is the civ that I've played the most, simply because they just felt I don't know, the most natural to me. But like I said, I do think 15 games is not a lot, but it gave me somewhat of a decent grasp of how the game flows and plays out.
Do you think that knowing some people have been playing the game for upwards of 80 hours, does that shake your confidence at all at being able to pass the qualifiers at Genesis? Because all of those are going to be, or pretty much all of them except for the round of 32 and round of 16 are going to be best of 1 matches. So you're very likely having to go through that trial of fire. Do you feel confident in being able to do that?
I still feel confident. I remember seeing some YouTube content of a the open beta tournament that some players held, and it was quite insightful to see how they play the game. I think just for most higher rated players, if they can watch some tape of other players perform, they will quite easily copy it, since we do have the mechanics down. So I think that's also one thing that can sort of excel your progression in Age of Empires 4 if you haven't put in let's say 80 hours like some people did already.
So talking with other players, particularly the StarCraft 2 players, they've told me about them having their sort of secret custom games that they're going to be playing. They're going to be developing their strategies in that environment, which is not viewable for everybody. So I want to know if you're worried that we might see two different metas developing at the same time in that early week, and one of which might end up being the best one, and it's not the one that you end up seeing in those public and custom games that are open. How do you plan around that? How do you try to avoid getting, lagged behind in those first few days?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do think it's quite important to play with a wide variety of players. I might even start reaching out to some StarCraft 2 players just to get a different view of the game. A lot of people, especially in the beginning, will have different philosophies on how to approach the game. So I do think it's important to play the game different ways, go for eco heavy approach, go for army heavy approach. Just testing and experimenting and just figuring out or trying to figure out what works will be important.
So will you be practicing a lot with your own teammates at mYinsanity, or how is that going to be looking like? Because of course you have your circumstances. I would imagine Daniel and Citao are going to be trying to make a run in the qualifiers for King of the Desert 4. And I suppose they will want, or they will at least ask for your help getting through those qualifiers. So how much balancing are you all gonna have to do in order to practice for those two events?
I do think we will obviously help each other, but if let's say they are not available, I know enough high rated players that would be willing to train, or they also need training. So I do think finding training partners won't be an issue for me.
Who are some of the people that you're thinking, if I need somebody to play custom games with for Genesis, who are some of the people that jump into your head that you might be able to catch and play a few games with?
Probably, like you said, Daniel, Cito. Also Jordan is someone who comes to mind. Maybe even running Angelina Jolie if he plays the game. Kazva is also someone who likes to train with a lot of different players. Maybe even Mr. Yo if he's online. So I do think there's going to be quite a lot of people who want to train.
Nice. And Ben, I want to ask you, let's say that you do go through the qualifiers. How far do you think you're going to be able to get in the tournament? Obviously, the target is going to be winning it, but where do you see yourself if you get past those best?
I think because there's going to be quite a lot of competition and the game is so new that I would say anything past the round of 32 is going to be a success for me.
And who do you think is going to win it all? Perhaps not necessarily a single person, but a category of people. Do you think that the StarCraft 2 players have the best chance at having one of them win the tournament? Do you think that you guys at Age of Empires 2 will be able to lock out, say, the top 4 or something along those lines? What group of people do you think have the best potential?
I honestly think probably the StarCraft 2 players have the best chance. Just from how I experienced it, the game can be played quite fast, and obviously StarCraft is a game which requires a lot of APM. Age of Empires 2 is a bit more strategical. Obviously you also need speed at the highest level, but I would probably slightly favor the StarCraft 2 guys.
And going past Genesis, how much time do you see yourself committing to Age of Empires 4? I know that at the moment we don't know if there are gonna be any more majors. I think the guys at Elite Gaming Channel kind of announced that they're gonna be having like show matches every Wednesday or something along those lines. But beyond that, we don't know much more. So do you see yourself committing like half and half to Age of Empires 4, Age of Empires 2? Do you think that unless there are big tournaments for Age of Empires 4, you are gonna be solidly in Age of Empires 2? What is your commitment here?
Yeah, I think at least for the first couple of months, I will go fully into Age of Empires 4. Now, obviously, if there will be big Age of Empires 2 tournaments, it will be still quite easy for me to switch back to the game. I just need to play a couple of games here and there to maintain my level. But for the most part, I think I will fully focus on Age of Empires 4. And I'm quite confident that there will be a lot of tournaments coming up in like let's say the first half year after the launch. So I will put my eggs in the Age of Empires 4 basket.
Nice. Yeah, this is kind of the final question. If people want to see more of your gameplay, whether that is for Age of Empires 2 or Age of Empires 4, where do you stream? How much do you stream? Do you plan to stream Age of Empires 4? Go ahead and plug everything that you want to plug here.
Yeah, okay. So for live streaming, I usually stream in the weekdays, let's say around 17 GMT on twitch.tv/Project Belgium. And in the weekends, it's a bit more flexible, but I do like to, let's say, get around 2 to 3 streams in a week. Obviously, I started working since beginning of September, so I don't stream as much as I used to, but since I got like an okay schedule now with work, it's a little bit easier to say, okay, I can consistently stream in the evening. So yeah, the plan is to stream like 2-3 times a week. And I'm gonna be streaming a lot of Age of Empires 4 when the game comes out.
Nice, awesome. All right, well, thank you so much, Project Golden, for talking to me. By the way, for people that don't know, because casters might use this, how do you say the other way that people say your name? BUGUM?
Yeah, so either it's Project Belgium or it's BUGUM.
BUGUM, all right. I'll make sure that the casters get said that one as well, because I know that otherwise some people are going to be caught off guard by it.
Yeah, that's my second nick, let's say.
All right, so thank you once again, Project Belgium, for sitting down and talking with me about Age of Empires 4. Of course, if you, the audience, want to find out more about him, all of his links are in the description so that you can check it out. And if you want to see more of this content, feel free to subscribe. Also, if you really like this, leave a like, leave a comment, all of those things help. But that is all for now. Thank you so much for watching, and see you around.